Hey everybody, it's Joe DeGanzik, and this is Smarter Home Life. It's episode 2 of the 2-episode duo combo, I guess, of the Q&As for June of 2017, covering the questions and comments that came in to the videos and various places around the Smarter Home Life online endeavors in May of 2017. This year is going by really quickly. Anyways, if you're new to these episodes, they're a little bit longer than the traditional review episodes and the other kind of news bits and so forth, and smaller how-to episodes. I take the most interesting questions that would be, of use to the most amount of people and place them. I can't talk, I've been making too many videos this week, and place them on these Q&A videos from YouTube comments and usually also through the emails to questions@smarterhomelife.com. I usually get back to you within a few days depending on workload and just being able to get back to you, and then again the most interesting ones go in these episodes. I also get to take a little bit of time to talk more about the topics in depth. I kind of can more interact with you, even though I'm just talking to a camera. Talk more about interaction live here in a second. And I get to do housekeeping stuff, like talk about our wonderful people who support the show every single month. People like Brian, Kelvin, Ralph, Warren, and others. A couple of those names are new in the past month or so. So thank you for joining up and supporting the show. Every little bit counts. It kind of sounds silly, like a telethon, like send your money now. Unfortunately, it does kind of get down to financials. Tom Merritt jokes about it on his show with Patreon that, he tried to cash in, the likes and the favorites and the thumbs ups and so forth and all the reshares on social media down at the grocery store, but they wouldn't take it. Unfortunately, you eventually have to make these things financially viable to make them a full-time thing and to push them forward. And that's what I'm working to do with Smarter Home Life. I'd like to eventually get away from the advertising and the sponsorship. It's good, but ultimately I think the independent route is a lot better. And that is one of the goals, and then we can reach that with your kind support on Patreon. I call it the Smarter Home Life Insider Program, kind of as a marketing term. But Patreon is a platform that was built to help creators like myself make a living based on what they love, based on what they love to do. And this is a good part of what I love to do. Talking about all of this connected home technology, how it affects our daily lives, how it affects the future, reporting on the news. It's a bit of journalism combined with all of this video work and so forth, and it creates Smarter Home Life. So whatever you can send in, think of us next to the electric bill. That sounds weird, but anyways, you can set it up as automatic payments every single month. Many people have done this so far. You can literally start $1 a month. I mean, it sounds silly, but like, who can't afford that? But you may be new to supporting content. This is the ultimate way to build really great content on YouTube and on the internet, because sometimes the ad stuff just doesn't work. It doesn't support itself. Let's see. Moving past that, there's other ways to support the show. You can go to smarterhomelife.com/support and find different ways, one-time ways to do it. One way I really like, and I've been doing a number of these lately without even just barely talking about them on the shows here on the Q&A episodes generally. I offer consulting time. It's one-on-one, it's video chat, it's interactive with you, and oh look, crickets, it must be summer. Anyways, it's a wonderful experience both for you because you get your questions answered, you get to kind of see a little bit of the sneak peeks behind the scenes here, and I get to learn more about you, the audience member, and help you directly with your smart home challenges and questions. I've been doing them recently with people from across the country and across the planet, and I really have had a lot of fun with it. And it is priced $50 an hour. It's done through Skype, FaceTime, what have you, and just shoot me an email at joe@smarterhomelife.com or questions. They both go to the same place at smarterhomelife.com, and we can get that scheduled for you. It's easier than doing it via email. Some of the questions that come in are really way too large for email, so it's a reasonable service, and it's discounted for the wonderful Smarter Home Life audience. So that's another way to help support the show. I am going to be moving. I've just found out that I've got to move in the next 2 or 3 months, so that's going to be very interesting. Maybe a little too exciting. So the next 2 or 3 months will be probably the last that content that will come out of this particular location in terms of where I live and where I produce everything here. It's been the majority of about 95% of all of the content for Smarter Home Life, and it will be hard to say goodbye to this place. It's been upgraded, it's been awesome, and there's still more to do here, but well, sometimes you just have to move on. So more details on that coming up, but again, moving costs and so forth. So yeah, please support the show. Thank you. I think that's about it for the housekeeping stuff. As always, send the questions in. I get back to you. The best ones go on the show. It makes the community stronger and feels like you've got an investment in the show and being able to get your questions answered and interact with me. So on to the questions. One last kind of little thing from last month. The Lady A calling episode was much more popular than I thought it would be, maybe just because of its timing. But anyways, I had a lot of fun with my good friend Allison Sheridan, who I had met at CES. I had watched her on various podcasts. But anyways, we've been geeking out over various things, and so we did a bunch of these tests on video with the Amazon Echo calling feature, and found some weird quirks, and you can check it out. It's been viewed quite a bit, and there's been a lot of people who've been commenting on it. Some people still questioning how it works. The basics of it is you don't need anything except a free Amazon account and to download the Lady A, the Amazon Lady A, because I don't want to set off your devices, app to your phone, Android or iPhone. And that's it. You don't need anything else. You don't need to own an Echo. You can communicate with people who own an Echo Dot, probably an Echo Look, obviously, and probably an Echo Show, but not the Tap, because it's a battery-operated device. It uses the phone number. You have to upload your contacts. I reached out to Amazon, and their PR people said that the upload of the contacts follows all the same privacy rules and security stuff as everything else within Amazon. And so take that as you will, but that does mean, from what they say, that everything should be secure and your contacts do get uploaded because they have to scan them to match phone numbers, and that's how the system works. So they find out, do you have contacts that have your phone number, and they have contacts that have your phone number, and vice versa. And that's how the system works. I haven't tried it in a little while, but there was still not a blocking feature. There was still not a voicemail feature. There was still not a feature to add contacts manually and not upload to your entire phone book, which I still kind of think is weird. Maybe they rolled this out pretty quickly. I don't know. They said, my suggestions about a voicemail and maybe call transfer between an Echo and the app are good ideas. And yes, Amazon, they are. So anyways, it's a very limited service at this point. You can do basic, just phone calls over the Echo and over the Lady A app on a phone. You can do that calling app to app, app to Echo, Echo to app. We kind of demoed the whole thing on that video. I'll put a link to it. It's a fun one, but it's surprising how popular it's become. So that's the basics on that. People just had more questions on that, so I just want to let you know and my responses that I got from Amazon's team on that. So next question. Mike Smith writes in. It was a comment from the Cube bulb episode. This is the Cube bulb, which has kind of gotten a little controversial lately because of Cube itself. I'll go into that in a minute. This is the first sub $30 Wi-Fi color changing light bulb. The challenge is they haven't delivered on all of their promises yet. I think they got into some challenges as a startup on Indiegogo. It's a decent product. It's not perfect, and I called out the various flaws with it on the show, so I wasn't just sitting here going, it's amazing, you know what I mean? I backed this like everyone else did. I was not sent this for free. It's a reasonable product, but it's still missing the iOS app. It's still missing a number of various features that they promised, and they are supposed to ship their Lightstrip product that they started the campaign for in January. No one seems to know if that's going to happen because they have not shipped all of these out to backers. There are still people complaining quite a bit on Indiegogo about Cube, so I'm not sure about it. But Mike writes in saying, nice video, thanks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your nice comment. I'm looking at using Wi-Fi bulbs similar to these guys, because you don't need a hub. You don't need a hub or HomeKit or any dedicated thing. You just need Wi-Fi. But I can't get past the point where the app wants me to supply my home Wi-Fi password. That just seems too unsafe to supply my network access to some company I'm not familiar with. And many of you, I've heard the same type of thing about security and all of these IoT devices. It's true. Now, granted, you know, they can't do all that much in terms of your home Wi-Fi password, because remember, if you use good security practices, which means don't make all of your passwords the same, your home Wi-Fi, you can't get access to your home Wi-Fi unless you're in range of your home Wi-Fi hub, right? You can't do that physically. And especially if you disable, which is usually disabled by default, the remote access of getting into like the administration of your router from somewhere else on the internet, generally you're protected, but I understand that you don't want to give it away. Generally, the password, assuming that the companies follow good security practices and they're not potentially malicious. I'm not saying that Cube is, I'm just giving that as an example. I have yet to have a problem with this bulb. However, because of its limitations and there's no API, I honestly don't use it every day. It is more of a demo type unit, but that's okay. Normally the Wi-Fi password is stored in the bulb, and that's it. It just needs to be able to get on your network, and that's it. Like, it doesn't store it generally anywhere else unless perhaps there is a cloud backup of all of your settings. Then it's possible that those settings, like your Wi-Fi password, could be sent over the cloud to their servers for storage. Doesn't always happen, and it really depends on how their setup works. From what I remember, Cube doesn't operate like that. It is just stored in the actual bulb, and it connects to your Wi-Fi, and that's it. But I can't, like I said, I can't speak for everybody, and I certainly can't speak for Cube, who is difficult to get a hold of. But from what my understanding is, in general with these products, it's stored on the product itself. And again, if you use good security practices, you probably don't have much to worry about. But if you are concerned about that type of thing, go with name brand, well-recognized products. And I'm not saying that Cube can't be an awesome company one day, but right now they do have a lot of complaints against them. So that's that. Thank you, Mike, for sending in your comment, and thanks for watching the video. Moving on. For Beta Mail 2, another comment. This was on a recent Q&A. Very in-depth video. Thank you. I'm glad that you take the time to answer subscribers' questions and make these videos, just like I'm doing right now. That being said, I have a question. This is another kind of security question. I'll kind of paraphrase this. I have a gateway for cable internet. I don't want to use it for wireless lighting because of the bandwidth drain on the network. He is also concerned about the Amazon Echo and having the information go all the way to the cloud and come back before the Echo will make a decision and do something. That also goes for phone apps. We'll do the same thing, but without the voice AI. Another great question, two kind of questions in one. The first of it being in terms of network bandwidth. The bandwidth that it takes to manually change things in terms of, if I go in and let me just do this, you'll probably not see this change. I'm trying to think of a big change I can make without screwing up my the exact scene. I can turn this guy off in the background, so you're going to see that all that stuff turned off. That was a HomeKit command that stayed local to the network. If I was off of the network and I was coming into HomeKit via remote, via the Apple TV, it would obviously use up my a tiny bit of my cable internet connection here. But anyways, it's a tiny bit of command, even with me, and I have nearly, what was it, the count, 45 or nearly 50 smart home devices here. The bandwidth is going to be used by products such as security cameras that are going to be sending you video streams if something happens, like a notification comes in via a motion alert. Most smart home devices are really, really good on bandwidth. Changing lighting, changing scenes. These are tiny commands, like less than a kilobyte usually. I am not a developer of smart home software necessarily, but I have been a developer of web-based applications in the past and did a lot of that type of work. These are really good on bandwidth. I just have to say, I really would not be concerned. about it. And most of the traffic, unless you're controlling them from somewhere else, or the devices have to hit the internet and then come back in, they're staying on your local network. They're not leaving it. I really wouldn't be concerned about bandwidth. The second half of his question has to do with things, of course, such as the Amazon Echo. And let me warn you real quick, I'm just going to make this is disconnected. I'm going to use the Google Home, so I'm going to use the trigger word live on camera right now, so please mute your devices, or please don't blame me in the comments for shutting off your devices. And this is right now at 7 o'clock on Friday, June the 16th. Okay, Google, what's the weather outside?
It's 106 degrees and sunny in Phoenix. There is currently an excessive heat warning in effect.
You think? Anyways, yeah, we're going to hit like 120 on Monday. I'll be hibernating. Anyway, so it's 106 outside at 7 o'clock in the evening in the middle of June in Phoenix. Hashtag Phoenix problems. That request had to go out to the internet, and she had to come back, even though it came back quickly. In general, I will say this with air quotes, in general, these voice-first devices, including the AI of Siri, which I know Siri's not that smart necessarily, they generally have an on-device, and I say again, generally, an on-device handler that listens to your voice for the wake word. For the echo, that can be computer, it can be echo, it can be Lady A. For Google, it's only OK search engine. For Siri, we know what it is. Cortana, and obviously with Bixby, hey, Samsung, what are you doing with Bixby? Whatever. Anyways, the device normally handles the wake word detection. As soon as that happens, whatever you say after that is captured and sent out. Now, the Echo apparently has a rolling recording set that is always recording the last couple seconds, possibly the seconds before that you said the wake word, and they're analyzing that, and they may be actually sending that up. I believe it's still handled, the wake word detection is handled on device, but they're recording it. So some people kind of have a problem with that, and so do I. And Google evidently is detecting the wake word on device, then recording and transmitting the rest of it to send up to the cloud. The issue is, to really get this AI stuff to work really well, you have to have the power of all of these interconnected servers and, you know, the cloud to make it work. Apple is trying to do it largely with Siri on device, but Siri is still sending your commands up to Apple, processing them for voice recognition, figuring out what you wanted, and coming back with, of course, what she does most of the time, which is a web search result. Yeah, I've got an article coming out in the next 24 to 48 hours about all 5 of these platforms. It'll be an interesting read to check it out on smarterhomelife.com. But anyways, that's the reason for it. It used to be that I actually wanted a home automation system that actually had all of that built in. This was years ago when people were doing this, all of this voice recognition and processing stuff right on your computer, but that was like in the early 2000s. It does make sense now that these systems have to get better and smarter using the cloud, using AI, and that's probably the only way it's going to happen. And I'm sorry to say that it probably is, until perhaps, oh look, what's her name has been, yeah, she's really helpful. She was trying to figure out what I was saying, but anyways, at least she didn't reply. I'm not a huge fan of the cloud kind of taking over our lives, but unfortunately it seems that, especially as a product reviewer and someone that I do use voice to a certain extent in my daily life, mostly for running simple commands, dictation. If I want the weather, I look it up via an app. I usually don't ask for it. But timers and alarms, all the simple stuff. It just seems to be a part of the equation and the kind of bargain that we accept in this connected world. Whether it's really a good thing or a bad thing is up for debate. I feel kind of leery both ways about it, but it seems to be that's where we're going. If it's handled appropriately, privately, if it can be handled in terms of the data security, how Apple handles it, I think it's a much better bargain in terms of what we give up in terms of potential privacy with something like Google, who wants to take the information, aggregate it, potentially anonymize it and then serve us ads and things like that. One day, come on guys, I mean, we have to think, one day they're going to start serving us ads randomly, as both the Echo and the Google Home have done as little tests in the past few months. At some point, these things are just going to start spitting out ads when we make requests, or potentially when they detect that we're like having breakfast. Would you like some cereal? Alexa has, what's her name has detected that you're low on, milk in the fridge. Would you like to reorder that? It's probably coming, and it probably is coming faster than you think. So it's tough to really give you an exact answer on this, but my answer as to the bandwidth issue, it's not an issue, and my issue with the voice recordings going up, there just isn't really another technological way to handle it. Once these devices become super powerful, maybe, but it's hard when all of these devices, like Apple's iOS devices, are supposed to be totally sandboxed from each other. It's hard to get that group learning, that AI. I wish there was another way to do it, but there may not be. So, but anyways, great questions, great information that I can share with you on how this stuff works. So thank you to 4BetaMail2 for the comment. Okay, so the next question is from Bravo Mike09. A lot of these were comments. Anyways, again, easier for me, maybe not easier for you to write into questions@smarterhomelife.com. Pretty good review. Thank you for your kind words. But we can use some discussion on the Bluetooth connection. That seems to be the weakest link in a lot of these smart locks and devices in general. This is an issue when an Apple TV is not located close enough to the lock. I actually was discussing this with on a consultation with one of my viewers just a few days ago. So it's not, you're not alone in this challenge. Often the back of the back, often the front or back lock. I think he's basically saying that the lock is just far away from the Apple TV, or if the device somehow is on the other side of the door, you're going to run into a problem. The issue needs to be discussed more. A very good solution would be for the lock to have a Wi-Fi connection instead of or in addition to Bluetooth. Thank you for the question. The challenge with it is there was only one lock, to my knowledge, one smart lock that really had any kind of name recognition, and this was years ago. The original Lockitron was a Wi-Fi based product. They quit making it within about a year or so, I think partially due to battery life, new technology. They're now making a new product called Bolt. It's not Wi-Fi, but it has another one of these little hubs. The issue is battery life. Like, I could just go on and on and on about it. The issue is battery life. You've got a device. This is the August. This is the original generation August smart lock. It's a battery-operated device, right? 4 AA's are moving a lock. There's a little, the motor is inside there, and they use a couple of little different adapters to adapt the device to your hardware in terms of the deadbolt and its little tailpiece that comes out. So it's a challenge to make the lock work in general, and it has to adapt based on different conditions and how difficult is it to turn the lock, and that'll drain the battery more. But it also has to be available all the time. So Bluetooth devices tend to go into a sleep mode after a certain amount of time, where they will receive updates and notifications, but you'll notice that if you haven't used a Bluetooth smart device or headphones or anything, they seem to take a few seconds to wake back up. And this is because they go into this sleep mode, and they can only be woken back up with a kind of like a wake command that's sent. Apple, there was an entire article about this, how Apple is going to tackle this with the new version of iOS 11 for devices such as sensors and so forth that really need to update and send out information really fast and potentially also trigger things really quickly. So they're doing some stuff under the hood in conjunction with device makers. Bluetooth 5, in terms of range of the signal, speed of transmission, reliability, getting through walls, is definitely an improvement over Bluetooth 4, which most of these devices like the August and like the Quickset Premise behind me are using, including, the sensors that are Bluetooth only as well. Bluetooth 5 is compatible as far as a firmware update with some Bluetooth 4 chipsets. Us consumers don't really know which ones are compatible or not, so it may be that certain products are going to be upgraded to Bluetooth 5 via firmware, other ones are just going to be replaced. It's my opinion that what's happened over the years with all of these home automation products is that Bluetooth was really the only short-range data transmission technology that was pretty well known and already a standard. And I feel personally that it was shoehorned onto all of these devices instead of using a dedicated technology such as something that exists already like a Zigbee or a Z-Wave. All of them have battery life issues, right? They're all trying to get these devices to update instantaneously with data bursts and triggers and issues and things happening, and it's a battery life issue. So part of it is making the devices as efficient as possible. Part of it is upgrades in battery technology. But he was saying also that the distance from, say, an Apple TV, the Apple TV, an iPad can also function as a hub for getting access remotely to your home's HomeKit devices. But these Bluetooth issues will persist if you're using these Bluetooth-based sensors or door locks with other devices as well, other smart home hubs. The distance issue is going to be a problem. And I was also, like I said, I was chatting with someone about this very issue. At CES, there were two companies, Elgato and ConnectSense. They both introduced, well, they announced products that are going to help with this. They're Bluetooth range extenders. And specifically, actually I think both of them will do HomeKit. Elgato is really more in the HomeKit world. I've reviewed a handful of their sensor products for like weather and air quality in the room, and also I have one on the door back there for open-closed sensors. These products are not out yet, and now with the new kind of wrinkles in iOS 11 with the new cool stuff in HomeKit, they're going to retool, and so I'm not sure that those products are going to be out by the end of the year like they had anticipated. I reached out to Elgato on Twitter, and they would not confirm or deny. They would confirm that they're working towards the goal of releasing the product. It's called the Elgato Eve Extend. I think I got that right. And the ConnectSense product is called the ConnectSense. Damn it, I forgot what it was called. But just look up ConnectSense or Elgato Bluetooth extender, and you'll find the links to those announcements through usually the media sources. I think I reported on it as well. So those products are going to be out there. This is just a challenge. Some people have said, well, just get another Apple TV. Yeah, but that's not a really good solution, because it's having another device that only serves one purpose just to bridge your devices is kind of silly. Of course, the HomePod, the ridiculously expensive HomePod is also going to offer the Bluetooth kind of to Wi-Fi bridge technology as well, but that's stupidly expensive. Sorry, Apple, it's ridiculously expensive. This is a first world problem. This is an early adopter problem. I spoke with people who are trying to do all kinds of interesting things with Bluetooth, from Ilumi, who wants to tackle this issue as well, to create a universal, a device that would be a translator between Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and potentially do range extending as well, and be protocol independent. That would be fantastic, because you're not then locked into HomeKit only or some other home automation protocol as well. And many of these devices, these products, I have one of them back there. It's a Bluetooth light bulb. It uses its own like proprietary Bluetooth connection. So if we can get some standards-based devices that would work with any of these products, that would be fantastic. We are in this weird state right now where there are so many products out there. It's good for consumers, but bad for consumers, because there's not yet quite enough support to really make the ecosystem fantastic. We've had Wi-Fi range extenders for years, right? But Bluetooth extenders, well, it's only been the past couple of years that we've had Bluetooth devices in our homes that have to connect to these internet-based systems or to our phones. So it's certainly an early adopter problem. You're certainly not alone. My Apple TV gets out about 40 feet that way through the wall and outside to the tree, which I have the Eve weather stuck into, but it's getting through a single wall, and this is just kind of standard stucco construction, so it's probably not having that big of a deal compared to like a block wall or multiple walls. Anyways, I feel your pain. I think other people feel your pain. Let's look for the next few months, probably the holiday shopping season. We may see ConnectSense and or Elgato release those products, and that could really help. We're starting to see, on other notes, we're starting to see people like SmartThings create mesh networks and include the SmartThings hub, which has Zigbee and Z-Wave and also Bluetooth, but I don't know that they're tackling Bluetooth range extending through their hub, through their multi puck devices that are like extenders, like we've seen from Eero and other companies and Google with Wi-Fi. So I understand why everyone writes in and it's like, well, how does this work and why doesn't it work for me? It really is confusing, and I'm glad that I could be here and try to answer the questions, even though I can't give you an exact answer that helps you today. Hopefully it will help you in a few months. So thank you to Bravo Mike 09. All right. All right, moving on. I just want to make sure I didn't have any other thoughts I could put towards that. This is going to be a long episode. Anyways, Roy Rugani Jr. Comment on smart home coffee. Now, I made a couple of little vignette videos from the Tiny Smart Home Tour. If you've watched the video, if you've watched the tour, if you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It's pretty awesome. It was months in the planning, weeks in the making. It's pretty fantastic. And it's kind of silly and funny in certain ways. So you have your coffee machine plugged into the smart switch and only turn it on to make coffee. Yes. You know, they say, you know, the old-fashioned people would say, you know, don't leave the toaster plugged in, don't leave the coffee pot plugged in, it could overheat. Of course, usually they have safeguards, but I had set this up a while ago just as a way that because you can't see them in the shot, but you can see them where they are on the tiny home video. They are set up in a way where the outlet is not easily accessible. So I thought, well, let's automate them and put it on a timer so I can use a button press, I can use a voice command, I can use a command on the phone to basically turn power on for 30 minutes automatically, and it'll turn it off. Now, of course, I added voice prompts and things which are just fun to know that it actually got it. It actually turned on, and actually when it actually turns off after 30 minutes. So they're randomized. This is the fun stuff in home automation that we don't really get to see. It's not available with HomeKit yet. Really not available with SmartThings. I can make it work because my home automation system is based largely on software controlling hardware, but the software is running on my Mac, and I can control speech to text, text to speech, like this.
Check the expiration date on the creamer.
So there's a randomizer that uses a bunch of different text phrases when the toast and coffee turn on or turn off.
Coffee and toaster power is now turned off.
That was not terribly exciting.
Dutch Brothers recommends at least 7 cups of coffee per day. You are falling behind again.
How many cups have I had today? I think only 2, so I'm falling behind. I won't turn it off.
Did you clean out the coffee grinds fast?
There are some funny ones in there, but anyways, I just did it. It kind of is entertaining sometimes. But beyond the voice stuff, it is plugged in. It's a simple on-off, right? So I have a simple coffee machine. It's either on or off. So if it's on, I can automate it. And the same thing with the toaster, although I would have to like push the toast down. So that would be a little more involved and set like the manual dial. But let's go back to the question before I go off on a tangent. If so, then you don't have the choice to use auto programming if the machine has it, right? Correct. So the answer...
Surgery enabled.
Actually, that's not right. Anyways, voice things go... That was funny. Voice things go off all the time. That's the warning that the fridge is being turned back on after being turned off to make these videos quieter, even though the AC is running because the weather is hot outside. Microbot push. This is something I just recently recommended to someone during one of these video consulting sessions, and it's a device that pushes buttons, right? Because like Roy is saying, you can only turn things on and off with these remote switches. So there's a device, it's available on Amazon. I haven't tried it, I haven't tested it. It gets about 3.5 stars, so take it as you will. It's called the Microbot Push. It's $50. It's a device that you can kind of like clamp on or use adhesive to sit it on top of things, and it will push buttons. It has a little thingy that pushes down on buttons. So the question in terms of auto programming, I know I was helping out one of my viewers with the consulting session, which was the issue of Keurig. I just couldn't think of the brand. Keurig machines, you know, you load up, you can preload a single, you know, coffee pod, but you have to push a button, and it's not an on-off switch. It's like a start button. So that's the solution. It's a solution to many different things. Many different devices out there have simply not on-off buttons. They could have soft buttons. They could have buttons that require a certain amount of presses to activate something. So this is a possible solution. It is kind of a proprietary device if you don't get their recommended smart hub, which is called the Proto, right? Prota. Prota. It's linked in the Amazon page. I'll put a link in the show notes about this. It lets it connect to IFTTT, to Lady A. We won't say her name and set off everyone's device. And so you can do more with it. I don't personally have a use for it, but you might. So that's the answer on the smart home coffee stuff. Many of the automations, back to the tiny home tour, many of those automations are not like just a one-time thing. They were not just set up as a demo. Granted, the wake-up sequence was a little bit ridiculous. Red alert does not happen every morning, but I do set up the automation for the alarm clock. It does do the snooze. It does do the voice prompts with the time. It just makes sense. In fact, all of that came from, this is going to show the Star Trek side. If you're into Star Trek The Next Generation, and the Deep Space Nine, there was a point where they had people, one of the cast members waking up, and the wake up was simply the computer announcing the time. And I thought, that is so simple, and it's a reminder every 10 seconds of what the time is. So if you snooze and you come back, you always know what the time is, and you're not just checking. And as a reminder, you know, get out of bed. You know, you've hit snooze 4 times. So, anyways, that's kind of where the concept for that came from. But I use these automations every day. Everything that I showcased in that tour, aside from some of the silly stuff and the Google and the Echo devices kind of yelling at each other, that doesn't happen, obviously. But everything else I use on a regular basis. It's all real. It's not like it's not a TV studio. It's real stuff. That is it. I think that wraps up all of the questions. It is a nice, very long episode for you, and so hopefully you have gotten some inspiration from it. All of this stuff is springboard, right? I give you the information, I do product reviews, I do some of the how-to stuff. It's also that you can take it and springboard off of it and come up with your own solutions. I did get some feedback, not as many photos as I wanted, but I'm going to make an episode probably in the next 2 weeks. They're going to talk about, and without the photos, we'll just have to imagine. But I did get some feedback during May about how you use home automation, and I did want to put an episode together and talk about that. And I did want to say thank you for all of your submissions. So that is that. As always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Lots of other tens of thousands of people have subscribed, and you're the first to get these episodes. And if you do want to support the show, I really would appreciate it. It would be fantastic, and you can join our ever-growing family over on Patreon. Patreon.com/smarterhomelife, or the shorter link, supportshl.com. And of course, send in your questions at smarterhomelife.com. It's the best way to reach me. And I think with the clock saying I don't have a couple minutes, just a few minutes left, well, that's about it for the show. I'm Jody Ganzik for Smarter Home Life. I'll see you next time.